Representing Canada's financial capital, the fourth largest city in North America, and the most amazing city in the world. This is Toronto Business Journal.
Hello everyone, we're here for another amazing edition of Toronto Business Journal Podcast Presents, and we have a super fabulous guest today, Mr. Kenn Harper, to talk about the concept of Greater Canada in relationship to Greenland. Take it away, Santos.
Kenn Harper is an independent scholar who lived in the Arctic for 50 years. He writes on Northern history and Inuktitut language. He has a particular interest in Inuit biography, whaling history, the Inuktitut syllabic orthography, and the Fifth Thule Expedition. He is the author of Give Me Winter, Give Me Dogs, Knud Rasmussen, and the Fifth Thule Expedition 2024, Minik, the New York Eskimo 2017, and Thou Shalt Not Do No Murder, Inuit, Injustice, and the Canadian Arctic 2017. He's also the author of a 5-volume series on Northern history, published under the series title, In Those Days, Collected Writings on Arctic History. He has been a member of the Nunavut Implementation Commission, 1993 to 1996, the Nunavut Historical Advisory Board, 2000 to 2002, and the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada, 2013 to 2015. He's a fellow of the Royal Geographical Society and the Royal Canadian Geographical Society, a recipient of the Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee Medal, and a Knight of the Order of Dannebrog, Denmark. He served as Denmark's Honourary Consul in Nunavut for 12 years. He speaks Inuktitut. Kenn is married to Kathleen Lippa from St. John's. They live in Ottawa since 2023 in St. John's. Welcome to the show, Kenn, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem.
Awesome. So thank you very much again. This is so a great welcome to you, Kenn, about this idea of Greater Canada. I stumbled upon your article because, you know, and a lot of us in the world today have been sort of very curious about Donald Trump, Mr. Trump's insistence on buying Greenland and not ruling out military conquest. And I stumbled upon your article about how there was some discussion about Greenland being actually a part of Canada. So we wanted to get your sort of insight and sort of your benefit from your background in terms of the, you know, the potential, the colonial discussions that went on with respect to, you know, Canada, Greenland being a part of Canada, and what's your take on, you know, Mr. Trump's, you know, demands to buy, you know, or annex or through military conquest potentially Greenland. What's your sort of your thoughts on that when you first heard it?
My first thought was, what is he actually proposing to do? Is he proposing to take it? Is he proposing to buy it? Is he proposing to invade it? Just exactly how did Trump propose that he would acquire Greenland? And he hasn't made that any clearer. He first floated the idea during his first term as president, and now the idea has come up again. So we can assume that he's serious and that he's interested in Greenland because of its strategic importance in the North Atlantic, and the fact that the Chinese have expressed interest in exploiting Greenland's mineral resources in the past. The rare earth minerals that are increasingly in demand in the world, a lot of them are to be found in Greenland. And so I assume that that's what Trump is really after, plus the ability to, you know, have American bases there. But the fact is, for the strategic purposes, he doesn't need to buy Greenland or take Greenland or invade Greenland because he's already got what he needs. There's a treaty from 1951 that a treaty between Denmark, which owns Greenland, and the US, which gives them the rights they already use in Greenland to establish a military base, to maintain a base there. So in terms of the strategic piece, he's actually got what he wants. This idea of Canada acquiring Greenland is a historic idea from around 1909, and it was advocated by an American of German birth and German background, but an American who lived in Washington, D.C., and he advocated in a very convoluted manner for Greenland to become part of Canada as a sort of a chess piece in a great swapping of territories throughout the world that he was proposing with the purpose of lessening tensions between Germany and Britain at the time. And this man, Robert Stein, proposed a very complicated diplomatic scenario, and the final result for Greenland would have been that it was acquired by Canada. The idea didn't go very far. He tried to get the Canadian government to take it up. Stein had been in the Arctic. He spent a couple of years on an expedition that wasn't very successful, didn't accomplish very much. In fact, the historian Lyle Dick described Stein's work on Ellesmere Island as a farcical interlude in the saga of the Polar Quest. But this didn't stop Stein, because his polar explorations in and of themselves were not successful. But back in Washington, he decided that he would introduce himself into the diplomatic piece and start agitating for this complicated swap of territories. His proposal ended up in Canada on the desk of the Undersecretary of State for the recently formed Canadian Department of External Affairs. And from there, it went nowhere. That Undersecretary of State noted on his proposal, "I do not think Stein's proposal calls for any action." And that's where the idea ended. And that's where the idea, I think, of Canada acquiring Greenland ended as well.
So it was sort of like a dead end, so to speak. Once it got to the External Foreign Affairs desk, they basically quashed the concept as not really something that they wanted to pursue.
That's right. It was very complicated what Stein was proposing. I'm just scrolling through my article to find, so I get the test.
There's a lot of, definitely when I read your article, it was a lot of exchanges of territory involving the Philippines and all kinds of territories.
Okay, so what Stein was proposing was, first of all, he noted growing tensions between Britain and Germany. And then he noted that the United States had an interest in the Philippines. And so he proposed that the United States would give part of the Philippines to Denmark. And in return, the United States would acquire the Danish-owned islands at the time in the West Indies. Then Denmark would give Greenland to Canada, because Canada was viewed at that time as being a British possession. And then Britain, in return, would give Denmark some of its possessions in Polynesia and in Africa. And then Denmark would turn over its newly acquired possessions in the Philippines, Polynesia, and Africa to Germany in return for Germany returning the area of North Schleswig, which they had taken a number of decades earlier from Denmark in a war, returning that territory to Denmark. And then, for no apparent reason, Britain would also give Newfoundland to Canada at the same time. This would be very complicated diplomacy to accomplish at any time. Stein published his theory, his desires in the American newspapers in early January of 1909, and they were picked up by papers in Europe. Stein says he got great support, but of course, nobody bothered to ask the Greenlanders or the Africans or the Polynesians or the Filipinos what they thought of this idea. It was a kind of a madcap idea, and justifiably it went nowhere.
So it was pretty much somebody's colonial chessboard thing going on. It had nothing to do with any sort of popular movements in these countries that wanted to change territorial hands to the various powers that he sought to include in this exchange.
Not at all. The people in the territories that he was moving about like chess pieces on his map,
Yep.
they had no idea of any of this. They were just living their lives.
Yeah. So it was sort of a pipe dream, so to speak, he had in terms of some sort of colonial appeasement strategy that he sought.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Now,
So
go ahead.
So no, I interrupted you, Ken. I think you were in the middle of a thought.
No, well, I was going to sort of move up to the present day again, but then I thought maybe you have a question that takes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get your insight. As the to get back in terms of Trump wanting to acquire Greenland for potentially enhanced military purposes and resources as well. One of the musings I had for his rationale wanting to acquire Greenland is that if he were to acquire Greenland and he's already expressed a particular interest in coercing Canada into the annexation, you had mentioned that turning Greenland into some sort of U.S. colony would be an opportunity to consolidate his power. My thinking is that if he took over completely Greenland while having Alaska, that he would be able to put a whole naval and significantly increase the U.S. naval presence that would potentially compromise Inuit and Canadian sovereignty in the north, and that might be his strategy is he can't really put troops on the southern borders of United States, so why not have this enhanced military presence up north justified by, well, we're trying to protect Soviet aggression, when his real designs are trying to subvert Inuit sovereignty not only in Greenland but also in Canada as well. I was wondering if you have any thoughts on whether that's legitimate or not really.
It's an interesting idea, but with Donald Trump, you never know. I'm not sure he's thought this through.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I'm not sure that the strategy you suggest is a strategy he would come up with, because strategy involves some forward thinking and some strategic thinking, and I don't think he's done that in this case. I think he wants Greenland I think he wants it for the critical minerals and for the strategic importance of it to fend off Russia in the North Atlantic, but also to prevent China from getting access to those strategic minerals. And I think, as I pointed out a few minutes ago, I think he already has what he needs in Greenland in terms of the Defense Treaty of 1951 that allows the Americans to put military bases in Greenland. And they do have a large defense base in northern Greenland. It's called the Pituxvik Space Center Up until a few years ago, it was called Thule Air Base. And it's largely, it's manned by Americans and by Danish civilian staff, but it's there and they can use it, and they are using it, and they're pouring more money into beefing it up. Now, on the strategic minerals piece, most of the companies that are involved in exploration for strategic minerals, nobody's actually mining them yet, but most of the companies with exploration rights are small companies. They're not Greenland-based companies. They're not Danish companies. They're companies with their headquarters elsewhere in the world. And you know, China is interested in this. I don't think would be very hard to convince the Greenlanders and the Danes to exclude China from this piece. As I said, the companies are very small. Some of them are poorly capitalized. So buy those companies, control the mineral exploration. You don't have to invade or acquire a country in order to do that. That would be my suggestion. As for Canada, I lived in northern Canada for many years, and I lived in Iqaluit, which from time to time there's an airline connection between Iqaluit and Greenland. So there's a shared community of interest between the Inuit communities on both sides of Davis Strait, and Canada has good relations with Greenland and with Denmark. We know that Greenland has a desire, or at least many of the politicians in Greenland and a lot of the citizenry have a desire for independence from Denmark. They've been moving towards that for a long, long time. Their desire to have independence from Greenland, let me try that again. Their desire to have independence from Denmark is a desire to be an independent nation in their own right. I don't think there's any support, or if there is, there's not very much support for becoming part of the United States. They don't want to trade one colonial master for another one.
So with that said, Mr. Harper, one thing which I'm kind of, you know, we've had a sort of an intriguing discussion about in another sort of interview is this idea that, of this greater Canada as potentially being sort of a modern potential alternative to what Mr. Trump is. Because according to polls I've seen, 90% at least are against any sort of so-called statehood, which would more likely render Greenland to be some kind of Guam or a colony of the United States, based upon how the United States usually treats its newly acquired possession. So I'm just wondering, is there sort of any sort of attractiveness that Canada presents in terms of two people in Greenland from the standpoint? For example, what is the relative quality of life between the Inuit in Nunavut and the Inuit in Greenland? Did you have any sort of insight on that?
The quality of life is good in both countries. Especially if you compare life in the capitals of Nunavut, being Iqaluit, and Greenland being Nuuk, and about I would say 30 to 40%, maybe 30% of the population of Greenland lives in one place, in the capital city. A good standard of living there. And they are very. So
you were talking about the quality of living comparable in the capital of Greenland and the in Nunavut.
Yeah. So Greenlanders, because of their ties with Denmark, they've been very when they look outward, they tend to look to Europe. They have many relatives who live in Denmark. Their ties by air are with Copenhagen. Doesn't mean they're not interested in North America too, because they are. And I don't presume to speak on behalf of them. I'm not a Greenlander. I'm only speaking from my own observations as a person who has been there many, many times. They have good feelings towards Canada. The people that are most interested in their Inuitness, if I can coin a word, their Inuit heritage, are interested in closer ties with the Inuit of Canada, but I don't think those ties extend to being part of the Canadian nation. I've never heard anybody express a desire to join Canada. And as I said, they'd simply be trading one colonial master with another one for another one, because, you know, Canada is the Canadian nation. It's not an Inuit nation. And Inuit form a very small percentage of the population of Canada. And the Greenlanders know that. They don't see Canada as an Inuit nation. They see it as part of North America. So I don't think there's a desire to resurrect Robert Stein's idea of Greater Canada and them being a part of it.
Awesome. Did you have some thoughts as well, Santosh?
Yeah, it's like I was wondering, like, what is their opinion about all this that's going on right now? Like the people in Greenland, like, are they like, are you in touch with them? And
I have two daughters who are Greenlandic.
Okay.
And one of them lives in Canada. The other one lives in Denmark.
Okay.
I know she doesn't think very much of the idea that Trump has floated.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been to Greenland now for about 6 years. So, you know, for knowledge acquired on the ground, I'm a little bit out of date. But I do follow and am in touch with a number of Greenlanders on Facebook. And I know that the opinion expressed on Facebook is generally that they don't think very of Trump's idea. Many of the people I see on Facebook do want to advance the idea that Greenland should be a sovereign state in its own.
Yes, but the population of Greenland is very low. Like it's only 55,000, or
about 55,000. Yeah.
Wow, that's a very small, beautiful community. It's a different life.
And it's a small community spread over a vast area. But if you look at the map, most of Greenland is an ice cap. So you know, nobody lives inland, because inland is all they live in coastal communities along a deglaciated coastal strip of land. And most of the population lives on the west coast of Greenland. There's only a couple of thousand on the Atlantic facing east coast.
Interesting.
Do you think, Mr. Harper, that the Danish memory of what happened in World War II with Hitler and his own sort of aggressive redrawing of maps before he invaded, do you think that may be a part of the memory of their nervousness of what's going on, or you think that's pretty much history and this is just something new, and that memory of World War II is not really a factor in how they are relating to Trump today?
You know, there's some memory of what happened in World War II when Denmark was occupied by the Nazis. Greenland had an American presence and even a Canadian consul to Greenland at the time. But it's as a result of of the Danish occupation of Denmark, where basically Denmark ceased to exist as a free country, that the United States acquired their rights in Greenland because of the actions of the Danish ambassador to Washington at the time, who refused to take his direction from the Nazi puppet government of Denmark, and did a deal with the Americans. But I think that's pretty faded from the memory of of most people. Certainly historians remember it, political science people remember it, but the common guy on the street doesn't think much about that.
Yeah.
So this idea of Trump's, it surfaced during Trump's first tenure as president, and Greenlanders certainly knew about that. It was well publicized. Now here's the idea back again, and Donald Trump Jr. went to Greenland a few weeks ago on a one-day visit. So yeah, it's very much in the minds of Greenlanders, I think, from what I read in the media, in the Danish media, the Greenlandic media, and what I see from friends on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, Trump said, with respect to Greenland and Canada, oh yeah, Canadian supports us being a 51st state. Oh yeah, Greenland, I think it's a good idea. I think Greenland, he basically, Mr. Trump, has these ideas, then tries to present information that's from his own head and present it as fact. He doesn't consult anybody about it, and redraws maps. At least during his first term, he floated the idea, and then he left it. But now he's like gone crazy. So now instead of just floating the idea like he did before, I'm just hearing this every day. Every day there's something about Trump taking over Canada, various ways, we'll offer you military protection, as if we're not already a part of NORAD. It's just fruitcake stuff, offering us health care like we don't have our own universal public health care. It's just craziness.
Yeah, I still think it's kind of like he's trying to get some attention and trying to get some leverage going.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Every day it's like Greenland. I'm seeing stuff about Greenland. Now I saw that the leader of Denmark, she had to be going to the EU. She went to Macron and, try to sell up support, military support for Greenland. It's just bizarre, just craziness that's going on. Stuff that Mr. Trump didn't campaign on. He didn't campaign on actually trying to annex Canada and Greenland, and all of a sudden he's obsessing about it every single day, and just craziness. That's just my opinion anyway. Yeah. So did you have any sort of thoughts, Mr. Harper, on this whole idea of Greater Canada's historical concept that you think that should be out there so that other historians or other people might want to have it as a food for thought? Or do you have any sort of additional thoughts as a supplement to what you wrote in your article?
Yeah, I would like to say that I don't think Robert Stein's ideas on Greater Canada should be resurrected.
Yeah.
I don't think this should be given new life. The problem with Donald Trump is that he doesn't think these things through, but he talks about them.
Yeah.
He talks too much about them.
Yeah.
And then the people on the other end of the discussion feel that because he's a very powerful man in command of a powerful nation, the people on the other side of the story feel they have to react. So you see what Canada is doing, making plans for how we will retaliate against tariffs. You see Doug Ford probably calling an early election to as he says, so he will have a mandate. I mean, the guy's already got a mandate, got a majority government, so just political posturing on his part, seizing the moment. You have Denmark announcing big increases to their defense budget to be spent in Greenland and in the defense of Greenland, and beefing up Denmark's ability to protect Greenland. You see all these people reacting, sometimes in a very expensive way, to the musings of Donald Trump. And who knows where he's going with these ideas? He may just be thinking out loud. Nothing may ever come of these ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, definitely, I mean, it could be just a bargaining chip and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed, what were you going to say, Santosh?
Oh no, it could be also, I was thinking, like a distraction just to like get people's mind off things, like maybe the economy, or it's something that it feels like like he's just playing with this while he's doing something else, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing that concerns me, though, is that, for example, when the Trudeau government offered to beef up the security, the Alberta government offered to beef up its border security, none of these increases in security, which is a part of a stated concern. Oh, we got to annex Canada because there's security threat and all this cross-border traffic and stuff. I don't see him lessening the pressure. I see him being more psychotic, and the more people try to appease Trump, he just gets more psychotic. So, I mean, one thing that Doug Ford said is that, you bargain from strength, you don't bargain from weakness and stuff like that. So this is what I'm just like, and again, like with respect to what's happening in Denmark, they, they try to keep the diplomatic, they thought, well, maybe if we just be steadfast in our approach and say Greenland is not for sale, then he'll back off, and maybe if we beef up security, he'll back off, but he hasn't. He just keeps being more, and I heard that people in a conversation with the leader of Denmark that it was a very stressful conversation. So that does not seem to me to be a jokey kind of thing he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to say he's joking.
Yeah.
But I am trying to say that I don't think he's thought through.
Yeah.
Possibly.
You're not well thought out through.
Well, he's not a deep thinker. And he talks before he thinks.
Yeah.
And that's a problem for the people that he's talking about.
Yeah. He has these plans, he doesn't think it through. Maybe it's a little bit of an ego, whatever, and he just, other people have to pick up the, whatever, the litter or whatever, the fallout of whatever he comes out of his head without necessarily being thinking through. Yeah.
But I think on Greenland will continue their move towards eventual independence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the Trump musings will speed that up or slow it down. It might cause some people. There's not unanimity in Greenland on independence, by the way. A lot of people favor it, but a lot of people have ties to Denmark and favor continued ties to Denmark. They do want more local autonomy, but they favor continued relationship politically with Denmark. So if there were a referendum today on independence, I don't know which way it would go. There would be strong voices on both sides. But what this may result in is even if Greenland stays a part of Denmark, it may result in more autonomy, more local control for Greenland. That will be sufficient for some people in Greenland. It won't be sufficient for those who want full sovereignty, though. So the one side may say, well, you've got an erratic man there in another country proposing to take you over.
Yeah.
I think you need to stay part of the Danish kingdom for support.
Yeah. For the military and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this could act to slow down the move for independence. On the other hand, it could act, if put forward to the electorate in a certain way, act to speed it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Greenlander, and I don't live in Greenland. It would certainly be very exciting, I think, to be there at this important time in the development of Greenland, to be there on the ground, and hearing on a day-to-day basis what people are thinking. I think that would be fascinating. Unfortunately, I'm not there.
Awesome. Well, thank you. You're not there, Mr. Harper, but you have some fascinating and tremendous insight from your continuing connections to both Nunavut and Greenland through your family and through your love for the Inuit, and reporting and giving great insight as a historian in terms of, the historical evolution and development of both Greenland and Nunavut and Canada in general. So we wanted to thank you tremendously, Mr. Kenn Harper, for taking the time to talk about your article and how it shed light on an interesting part of the past. And, we all as Canadians hope that the people of Greenland are allowed to continue with a sense of national self-determination based upon what they want and not based upon what outsiders pressure them, particularly Mr. Trump, into taking. And we look forward to any other article which you might have and publish concerning, what's happening in Greenland or Canada in general. So thank you very much, Mr. Harper, for taking the time to share your thoughts with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And thank you very much for Santos for joining us. And this is another great edition of Toronto Business Journal. And we look forward to anybody who wants to post comments about today's fabulous show. Please feel free to do so. And we'll forward those comments to Mr. Harper. Thank you very much for taking the time for another great edition of Toronto Business Journal.
Thank you.
Awesome. So you can
Thank you.
and that the